Any plans for this evening? Perhaps a game night?
It's game over, man. It's game over.
Shut up. Play the game. Play it from your heart.
26 years ago, we started playing a little game. Now, we're all gonna sit down. We're gonna finish it.
And may the odds be ever in your favor.
And here we go.
Let's jump into Skyrise. So, Skyrise was published in 2024, designed by Gavin Brown, Sébastien Pochon, and Adam Wise. Art by Andrew Bosley and Gavin Brown, who's also a designer, I see. It plays 2 to 4 players in 30 to 90 minutes. It has a weight of 2.3 on BGG, which feels about right to me, and has a board game rating of 7.7 on BGG. Welcome. Thank you so much for considering a luxury condo in Skyrise, the prestigious floating city in the sky. Yes, that's right, in the sky. Don't worry, the commute is only a nightmare if you value your time, sanity, and your money. Here's how it works. You and other visionary developers will be competing to build the tallest, flashiest skyscrapers on these enormous hovering islands. You'll be bidding against each other to secure the choicest lots. And let me tell you, nothing says prime real estate like a slab of rock suspended 10,000 feet above the ground. Make sure you don't drop your keys because you'll end up in one of those countless lawsuits. Who knew gravity would cause so many issues? Of course, your buildings aren't just buildings. Oh no, they're statements. You'll need to impress the influential patrons who apparently love living in constant fear of falling to their death. Collect enough prestige by aligning your towers with their absurd tastes, and maybe you'll be declared the visionary who shaped the future of this floating mess we call a city. So welcome to Skyrise, the city where the only thing higher than these towers are the HOA fees.
I'm not mowing this place.
So who wants to take a little bit of a stab at giving us kind of a rundown? I alluded to some of it there in that fun little intro, but Tom, do you want to take a little stab at how the game plays? It's not very complex, so
it's definitely another one of those that you start off with the game and it's easy to teach somebody how to play it. As a matter of fact, you can on most of the bidding turns you can explain it as you go. So it's actually a pretty accessible game to get into and get to going. But basically what it is you are bidding on the plots in all the different areas of Skyrise, and they have different color codes to them. They have different things that you'll get if you get them to get sets in, and that's the scoring side of things. But basically the first person that starts the bid puts a little building down, and it's got a number on the bottom of it. And you put the number down, and the next person in line to bid has to up that number. And then you keep going around and around and around, and they have to be adjacent to each other. So you're snaking through from where you start to another plot. And wherever it ends, whoever decides either has the highest bid and can't be outbid, or whoever just decides I'm out and everybody's out, then you flip your building over, and that's your spot. And you take the reward that's on the spot, and part of the rewards on the spots are tokens that will increase your score and value of each building on that spot for end game scoring. And then there's a couple other, there's a wild and something else, but it all affects your end game scoring. And then you've got your own personal achievement that you're going to try, your own secret objective. And then there's other achievements that it's played in 2 eras. So at the end of era 1 they score, and then at the end of era 2 they score again. And then so basically what happens is you score those, and then you're trying to find the best plots that work together with your achievements that you're trying to do, and the scoring. Some of them are like build a certain amount around lakes on the board, and then different things on the floating city, and it's a really like I said, easy game to learn, but there's a lot of strategy in it as far as getting your scoring in the sweet spot and making everything hit your objectives right. And I don't know about you guys, I've got the super deluxe version, which is a feast for the eyes. So if you have, like as Ferris Bueller once said, if you have the means,
it is so choice. If you have the means, I highly recommend picking one up.
So definitely get this one. But the gameplay, I played the other version, and the gameplay is solid. So even if you're just getting the retail version, it's a fun game.
Yeah, and even the retail version is beautiful. I mean, it's simple.
Oh yeah, it's nice.
The structures are just like these simple blocks, but they're like carved out with a little design, and each of the different colors look a little bit different with their towers and their their wonders, and the pastel colors, and you still get like a little bit of a 3D feel because you've got the baseboard, but then you've like put on the islands are separate boards that you put on and kind of puzzle together. And so it still looks gorgeous on the table, even if you have the base non-deluxe game. But yeah, like I agree. It's a game that like I could teach you in 5 minutes. But the crux of this game, and I think what makes it special, is the way that the bidding works. Because if you imagine, like, if I just slammed this on the table and I said like, guess how this game works, right? You would immediately think like, okay, I bid my 24 building and you bid your 26 building, and then we just keep bidding and then you win that plot, whatever plot we kind of like started bidding on. But I think the beautiful part of this game, and what really differentiates it from other similar games, is that it's that thing where like I put my 24 strength building on this like yellow neighborhood, and then if Andrew wants to beat me, he has to not only one up my 24 strength building, so he has to play something higher than that, but he has to do it in an adjacent neighborhood. And so, as you said, it kind of snakes through and it goes around the table. And sometimes you end up with like 5, 6, 7 bids, and like you're like 8 spaces away from where the bidding started. And there's all sorts of implications that are not obvious at all the first time you play. It wasn't until like near, mid second game and into the third game where I was like, oh, like if I do this, that kind of corners you. And you've got a tough decision to make, because there's there's a situation, if you can imagine, once buildings start to go down, the like areas of the board get cornered, right? So there might be a little corner where there's no way out and there's only 3 plots of land. So
dead ends are rough in this.
Yeah, so exactly. If there's a dead end situation, like I can, if I don't want any of those in that corner, and I want somebody else to take it, I might put my smallest building in there and just like let the other guys fight over it. But really, they've got no choice. Somebody's going to take it unless they let me have it for my smallest building, which is like a great outcome too, because it's a super low investment. So there's just so many little nuances and little like moments that make you feel really smart. But on the flip side of that, there's moments that make you feel really dumb too, because sometimes you don't realize that there's a plot of land that is cornered and you just didn't look at it closely enough before you slammed your thing down. And the other person, if there's only one space left that's adjacent, they could just take it if they wanted to, or they could pass and force somebody else to do it. So there's so many little implications, and it really is that like snaking adjacent bidding mechanism that really sets this game apart for me. Andrew, do you have any like overall thoughts on this game?
Well, the first time I played with this mechanism was a small game called Nocturne. Have you guys ever played that one?
No.
It's a simple set collection game, but it uses that mechanism. And I always thought when I played that game, I'm like, this game isn't deep enough, right? Like this game is a cool mechanism, but it's not more than that. So then I played Skyrise after. I don't know which one came first. I know that Hysteria Games made Metropolis, which is Sebastian Pochon's version of this in 2008. I never played that one. It looks very similar. It looks like they took that game and then upgraded it and made it better into this version. But yes, this auction mechanism I think is brilliant. I think it's absolutely brilliant. It causes so many different multiple tiered decisions. And by that, I mean, I want that space and that space, but I don't want that space. So I'm going to set up the bid in this spot so that if you upbid me and I know you want that space, you're going to go there. And then I'll be able to bid high on the space I actually want. Right? Like, but it's even more hard in a 3-player game to do that, or a 4-player game to do any kind of setting up of that. So then you have to kind of pivot away from that and be like, well, I want this general area and I'll just take it as it comes. But in a 2-player game, you can set up 2 or 3 moves in advance on things like that, which I think is really cool. Also, when you do the bidding to start off with, you have to bid off of one of the buildings that is in the world. So you can also kind of dictate how quickly you're going to get to a certain area by steering the bidding in different things. For instance, if I think I can get you to spend more early and I can pigeonhole you to an area that's not that important, especially the 2-player version, I can kind of constantly steer in that direction and then give up and let you kind of spend a little bit of your earlier stuff and get kind of stuff that isn't as important to later on. It's really an interesting tactical choice with an auction mechanism. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, like I've only played this at 3. Did I play a game of 4? I think I just played 3 games of 3 players so far. So it's really cool at 3. You can plan a little bit less, right? In terms of like you said, like if there's only 2, it's a back and forth. You know that if I put this here, I have a good chance of having a shot at a neighborhood that's 2 away from where I've started. But then if you're 3 or more players, I'm mathing things out. So I'm doing one of 2 things. I'm like, okay, I really want one of these 2 in that corner. So I'm going to start 3 or 4 spaces away from that so that if it does come back around to me, there's a decent chance that maybe I'll be able to get one of the ones that I really want. Or the other thing that I'm doing sometimes is starting in an area that I want nothing to do with. And I just put my lowest piece there. And then I let the other players fight it out. And that way I know they won't be encroaching into an area that I really have, that I'm really invested in, because they're going to be forced to stay somewhere around where I've started things, right? So there's all these little implications. Another really neat thing about this game is that all of our buildings, so the buildings themselves have a number at the top. And I'm 100% sure it's balanced, but Andrew, you might have the 1. And then I would have the 2, and then Tom would have the 3. But then there's a jump, and it goes to like 12, 13, 14. So Tom had the highest of the little ones. In the next segment, I have the highest. And then in the next segment, in the 30s, Andrew would have the highest. And it kind of goes around like that in a situation where like there's always going to be somebody that has the high, because there's no numbers between the players that are repeated. So there's always somebody at the table with the highest piece, the highest valued building. And so that's something that we're constantly keeping an eye on. I'm looking around the table. Who has the highest right now? Oh, it's me. Okay. So I'm in a situation where like at any given point, if the perfect plot comes up, I can just take it if I want.
Plus the wonders do that too.
And the wonders do that, yeah. So there are these wonders that you get access to in the second age. So the game's kind of split into 2 halves. And as soon as somebody's played the first half of their buildings, that age ends. There's a little bit of scoring. And then we have access to our second set of buildings. We add it to what we've got left, including a wonder. So it's like a building that looks different from the other ones. And at that point, you actually have a choice of 3 different wonder cards that you can choose from that give your wonder a special power of some kind. So sometimes it allows you, so the one that I played with last allowed me to take 2 rewards, the one where I win, and also an adjacent spaces award. So it was really cool that I could go and get 2 tokens that I really wanted with my tower, and everybody's got a little special power that they can do with their tower, with their wonder, which is like a specialty building. The other neat thing about it is that wonder is a trump. I call it a trump because it's like play a lot of trick taking games, but basically if you put your tower down, which you can't do as a starting bid, but as soon as the bidding has started, you can put that tower down and the bidding immediately ends and you just win. And everybody has 1 of those. So that's a really neat thing that's kind of slid into the design of this kind of like elegant, simple game to just give you a little bit more flexibility and opportunities to feel like really smart and really powerful.
So the cool thing about that too is while you're playing the game, I know, or I have an idea of what I think you value things at. And when you bid, you're bidding not only for you to take that spot, but if I put my piece in a place I know you want, that's not a possibility anymore for you, even with your wonder. So I feel like you're doing a lot of defensive bidding, even on top of my offensive bidding. And then sticking something with somebody with something they don't want is like the ultimate great feeling in this game, where they're like, "Oh yeah, I was definitely thinking for sure you were going to go here." And like we had a lot of, in my plays, we had a lot of dissection of the bidding after the bidding finished. Like, it was a lot of like this, man, here's what I was thinking here. And then you screwed that over by moving here. And he's like, yeah, I did that because I knew you were thinking about that. And I love that kind of like
mind games,
on top of the table interaction of things is some of the best possible way. And this game does that more than I think other games that I play.
Yeah, and I agree with that too. And it's a big thing for me too. It's not only that, but to draw out somebody's big gun. Like,
Oh, yeah.
they've got the biggest tower and they could just come in and take it. So you're like maybe kind of guiding them over in a certain area, and you're kind of, especially because I find that I'll end up having like one really good tall building, and then everybody else will have one that's a little higher, but I'll come out with my higher medium building and see something that I think that they're going to like, but it's not going to help. It's not going to hurt my score. It's not going to really help their score, but I know that they kind of want it. So it's like, all they've got is their big gun to take that, and it's like, come on, I know you want it, and then I come around, and go, now nobody can take this from me, and it's such a gratifying feeling being able to kind of play them out and end up to where, like, there was one round we played, and I had like the top 3 bids at the end, and I'm like, I'll just take whatever I please at this point.
Yep.
I'll also say this. I don't love a lot of area control games because I feel like it's a little the rich getting richer for the most part, unless you tend to overspend to compensate for it. But in this one, I really think it's an exceptional version of that because it's about the height of the building more. So by spending more, you can gain access to that. But then you also have to outnumber them. But it's an easy thing to kind of overcome, at least early. It's a harder thing to lock something down to get the area control that you need for long term. So I feel like it changes hands more often and more frequently than most area control games. Would you guys agree with that?
Definitely, yeah. It has a lot to do with, like, because again, just to paint the picture a little bit here, everybody's got one tower in the single digits, that is the small towers, then one tower in the like teens, and one tower in the 20s, and then one tower in the 30s or something like that. And then everybody's got three or four medium towers that are in like the 40s, 50s, and 60s or something like that. And then everybody's got 3 or 4, I think it's 3 tall towers, which are in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. So there's plenty of scenarios where, like, I take, as Tom was just saying, like, I can take my biggest of my medium buildings, and if anybody wants to beat that, they got no choice but to play a tall one. So there's like plenty of situations where I'm like, okay, I'm bidding a little bit higher maybe than I would want, but like if anybody wants this next thing that I don't really value, they've got to, like, they can't just one up it there. They've got to like use one of their big boys, And so there's plenty of little opportunities like that to feel really smart and pigeonhole people. I don't know if that's the right word, but like stick people in corners or in situations where they have a really tough decision. It's like, this is a great spot for me, but I would be wasting and using one of my like most powerful pieces to take this, and it's early game and I'm not even sure what I'm going to need later. And like, oh, do I do this now? And like, if I do use one of my big guys, like the next person over has one that's like one a little bit higher. And then that puts them in a corner where it's a dead end and they could just take it. And nobody could even respond. So it's like there's tons of these little situations and moments where you like have an opportunity to feel smart or feel dumb or corner somebody or put somebody in a tough decision, tough spot. And it's just like really, really interesting to see all of those things develop in our own minds as we're playing our first game. Halfway through the game, we're like, oh, if I go into a spot like this, that means XYZ, and you can't, like, those, and the game is full of those moments as you're discovering how it works.
Oh, especially when you pair that with the scoring. The scoring where you have like the basic scoring for all the game is if you have control an island, you get score at the end of each era. And sometimes it's like, I know you cannot take control of this island because you don't have the big building, so you can kind of force them to throw things in bad areas, and then you could sit there with a spot that's perfect for them, and it's like Sophie's choice: either you take this spot and it helps you score a little bit, or I'm going to take this other island. So or something like that, where you're able to do that. And some of the scoring options, it's like, go ahead, would you like to take that? I know you don't.
I like that there's also 2 scoring levels, right? Like there's the first scoring and the second scoring. And I actually think it's beneficial And the game is set up in a way to kind of make you bid early. If you get enough behind and you don't put enough bids out to even get some access to things, other players can start running away with the score a little bit early on. Yes, you can make some catch up behind later on, but if you decide to try to sandbag a little, it can be very detrimental in early scoring and hard to overcome later on. So you can't just say, I'll let you take whatever you want and then I'll come in and be able to just clean up the board after with all the spaces that I want. So you can bid defensively and offensively, but you can't get too far out of it, and it's really cool for that reason.
Yeah, it's great, and like more than anything, I think the fact that it's so easy to learn and has all these nuances that reveal themselves to you as you play. I think it's just genius. My one negative that I would put out there, and I think it's just a necessary evil in this kind of game. And I had the same kind of like thought with Art Society, where you're filling out, Art Society, you're filling out a tableau basically with art pieces, and there's just adjacency stuff and like comboing and just like the standard kind of tableau building, tile laying kind of scoring, right? But when you first start that game, there's a bidding situation as well, and the first like 25% of this game feels very arbitrary. Like you're like, I don't know, I guess I'll go over here and hope that I can get that spot over there. But then people can go in so many different directions away from where you were hoping they would go or whatever. It feels a little bit arbitrary. And I have heard that criticism about this game that I don't fully agree with, that like, hey, like, why does it even matter? Like how does this bidding even matter? Where does the strategy even come in? Because I could start my bidding here, but then it ends up across the board. What's the difference, right? Well, of course, we talked about some of the nuances and why it does work, but it does feel like that in the early game to me. So that's kind of maybe my only kind of criticism of this game, is that the first 20% of this game or so feels a little arbitrary. There's a little bit of strategy and a little bit of things that you can do to try to like set yourself up and maybe take an island early by placing your tall tower and being like, this is mine, like so there's a little bit that you can do, but in that first little while, especially when it comes to like the nuances of bidding, there's no corners, there's no like dead ends in the beginning, so it's a little bit more arbitrary, and that's probably my only like quote unquote big criticism of this game, which ultimately is just a necessary evil, because you got to start somewhere, and then the puzzle becomes more and more and more interesting, to the point where like when you get into the mid game, it's like so crunchy and so interesting that it was like it's all worth it kind of thing.
No, once you got your first game down and you watch everybody score, then it's like lights start going bing, 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 bing. Yeah. Oh, I should have done this. Oh, I should have. Oh, I needed some more of that to make those top buildings worth 6 instead of 3. And once you get that scoring down and you realize that the people who get it are like 20 points above the people who don't. But then the next game, you guys start rocking. Everybody's kind of in the same area, and you're squeaking out a win. I think now we're basically divided by like 2-3 points at most at the end of the game. And there was some games that were early on, we had like 20-point deficits on some people, but then they're like, oh, now I see why you did that, or oh, I see why you did that, and it really opens the whole game up.
Yeah, I think the strategy in the beginning, what makes the beginning interesting, or that doesn't, like the criticism that I just had, the counter to that is that the beginning of the game, that first 20%, it's more about just being opportunistic. If you see something you really need or want, you just like go after it. If you have an opportunity to like put something down and just take it, then you do so. And if you don't, then you kind of wait, and you kind of wait in the weeds and wait for an opportunity that's just like perfect for your goals or whatnot. And then the other part of the early game is just sort of trying to keep pace with other people. So if you both have 2 or 3 pieces out and I don't have any out, I know I've got to pick up my pace so that I can kind of at least keep up and not fall too far behind. So those are the nuances and the interesting stuff in the beginning. Even though it might feel a little bit arbitrary, it's just about being opportunistic and that pace, I think. Go ahead, Andrew.
I have a counter to that on some level too. I feel like the size of the building dictates the area of effect. So if I bid small, it's going to have a huge chance of getting way out of control, right? Or and going into different places. If I bid medium, though, it shrinks that area of where that's going to end up bidding is going to end up down to a smaller spot. If I bid big, wow, and now it's really tight. It's probably that spot or the next spot. So I think that's kind of up to you how far you're willing to let this auction go in whatever direction it's going to go. And I feel like at least early on, you can also bid medium and it turns into big because people are not willing to spend their bigs early. So I don't think it's necessarily arbitrary. It might be on first play, because you're still understanding it. But for that third or fourth time, I feel like there are lots of situations where I can influence how far away the bid is going to finish by where it starts. Or I can jump the bid from a small. Somebody puts down a 5 and I jump to a 20, knowing that 30 can be played, but not likely, right? And so you can really target the spots that you want. You just have to spend more than you're comfortable with, or that people are most likely going to do in normal auction situations. But those are entirely based on how I want to play this game and what's important to me or not important to me. If the area is not important, then yeah, I'm willing to let you take something or bid lower and let it get further away. But I think you can dictate a little bit how far the end of that cycle is going to go.
Yeah, knowing not when not to bid is a big thing on this.
Yeah, completely agree. And I alluded to it a while ago too, is that if I have no interest in a certain area, I can kind of force my opponents to end up there, right? I start small and I just pass my next turn. And I'm having them use one of their towers in an area that I have no interest in. As opposed to them, encroaching on an area that's important to me, and I can wait for a scenario where I have the tower advantage or the spatial advantage to go and start a bid in the areas that I have more interest in. So it's a game that I will say that you alluded a little bit to this, Tom, is that if somebody's played 8 games of this and they play with 2 or 3 people that have not played, that person you're going to win. You're probably going to win.
Huge
unless they
advantage.
get really lucky, or the person's insanely smart and great at board games, and they just digest the whole thing, or they've played a similar game. But otherwise, you're going to win that game. But I will say that the neat thing about this is that if everybody at the table is at the same level, if it's all casual board gamers, they're going to have a blast playing this. And if it's all hardcore board gamers like us, we can all have a blast as well. So it's a game that is very flexible in that way. And these are the types of games where you're just it's one of the games that could easily end up being a classic, right? In 15 years from now, we could still be playing Skyrise, and that would not surprise me.
And don't underestimate the power of three loose cannons playing against somebody with a plan.
Right.
Because there's definitely, why'd you take that? I don't know. Oh, well, now I'm messed up.
It's like my buddy Ian wins almost every game we play. He just has a broken brain. And and I swear to God, every time we play a game, he does something. And I'm like, why'd you do that? And his answer is always I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm like, yeah,
loose cannon.
I don't believe you for a second, because you end up winning every game we play. And you say, in every game we play, you say, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to do this. He's got a master plan. And this is the kind of game that people with brains like that can just eat up. So yeah, great game. Any nitpicks? I had a little bit of a nitpick in terms of the early game, especially for your first few games, feeling maybe a little arbitrary, and just almost setting things up. Sort of maybe the first few rocks in curling, right? People are just putting guards and there's not much going on until
that's right. It's Canadian. You're from Canada.
Right, yeah.
I'm like, curling. What?
Curling? What is that even? My Canadian audience is always like, oh yeah, that's a great analogy. Good job, man. And all the Americans are like, what is he talking about?
Throwing rocks? What are you talking about?
Well, it depends if you have the hammer or not.
Okay, I have to assume that that's something else to do with curling. I'm sorry.
You gave me the exact reaction I expected. So any nitpicks on the game, guys?
For me, I have one, and that is the bridges between the segments. It is too hard to recognize what they are. And I've seen, if you go through pictures of BGG, almost everybody paints their bridges. Just make it a different color because it blends too much. Even with the deluxe edition, which is gorgeous and it really makes it feel great. But those bridges can be hidden. And there's a path through between those things. And if you don't see it, you might just give up on something or not see something, or you can get tricked into not doing the thing you should be doing in it if it's not more visible. And to make it all the same color all the way around is doing the players a disservice when everything else is so carefully crafted. But that's a nitpick.
Yeah, I agree, because like in the last game itself, I actually thought there was a little walkway in between where it was a dead end, and just from the 3D effect, it was like a vent. It wasn't a staircase or something. And
Right.
and we actually broke out the normal version and looked at the thing. Okay, well that's the stairway, and that's the stairway. So that's
Yeah.
not a stairway, and it's just that's a little nitpick, but in all honesty, now that you mentioned painting those bridges, that's that next thing I'm going to do when I get this thing out, is I'm going to just get the little paint pen and stencil the bridges, because it is
That's all
kind
it
of hard to
takes, not a
see.
lot. Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to see in the deluxe version.
Yeah, it surprised me to hear you say that, Andrew, when you first said it. Because in my last game, I had no issues with the bridges. But then when you were explaining the scenarios, the two of you right now, I kind of like had a yeah moment where in our first game, I don't remember if it was me or not, but somebody like, I guess this is mine, and then like just put their tower, face down, thinking that was the dead end, and somebody's like, no, there's a bridge there, and I'm like, oh yeah, right, oh yeah, okay, no, I see it now. But I think like once you've played it 2-3 times, it just becomes you just remember and you see it. You're just used to seeing them, and then you don't have to look for them, right? But I agree that maybe in the first couple of games, or if you only play it casually from time to time, that's going to be something important to make sure that you see that. So yeah, maybe a little bit of a graphic design nitpick. Anything with the gameplay that you guys maybe don't love?
Well, for
It's
me,
such a
I mean,
simple
in
game.
our game group, yeah, it's for our game group. The only criticism I could come up with is that I can't play with 5, because it's a 4 limit, and quite often we end up with 5 in our misfit groups on the weekend. But
Gotcha.
that's the only thing that keeps us from going to the table much more often than it does.
I would say give it time. I have a feeling that that is the kind of thing that they're going to add in later on and bring on another level or another map or something like that to fix that.
I was thinking about that. I'm just like, there's so little real estate that you can't really add another player easily, but then the way the board is, how are you going to do that? And I can't figure out, maybe they're going to add more levels to it or something.
Go
Who
3D.
knows? Yeah.
Cool. All right, so let's get to our scores then. Andrew, you want to start us off?
Yeah, for me, out of 10, this is a 9. I feel like it really is good, and I feel like there's no reason for me to feel like it's going to drop off. And with the quality of the components and the thing, I'm going to get the deluxe version. There's just no way I'm going to get a discounted version of this. Because if you're going to play, I feel like if you're going to play this game more than about 10 times, the difference of the deluxe version and the basic version is dramatic. And it's not always dramatic in a lot of places, but it is here. And each of the buildings feeling different and having personalities and seeing the way it looks when it finishes is so satisfying that this feels almost like the Rome one. What's the one by Arcane Wonders? I can't think of the name of it right now.
Foundations of Rome.
Foundations of Rome.
Right
Yeah,
there
it
over
has
his
that.
left, his right
Or as we
shoulder.
call her, baby.
Yeah. It has the Foundations of Rome satisfaction of building the thing out. And like Foundations of Rome, the gameplay is relatively simple, but the strategy is super deep. I feel like these two compare very, very favorably to each other, but I actually like the bidding mechanism in Skyrise more. So if I have to do a direct comparison, I'm going to go 9 and 8. But both those are great scores, and if you like one, you're going to like the other.
Yeah, and I like it. Or compare the deluxe version to normal retail version to Foundations of Rome, Foundations of Metropolis, because I mean they came out with a cardboard version of Foundations of Rome, and for me, I just look at it and go, but we'll get Rome out anytime that we can get Rome out. We've loved that game since I think that the story that we tell everybody is that when we sat down at Dice Tower East and got a demo of Rome, we had 2 turns, and I take my credit card and I hand it to Misfit Tom, the other Misfit Tom, and say, "Go!" And he got
Go
one
get
of
it.
like the second to the last one that they had for sale. You know, and it was that immediate falling in love with a game like that. And Skyrise, you know, we were at Gen Con and it was a press deal with Roxley, and the designer was there and had it all laid out, and we're like, ooh.
Yeah.
And then we got the copy to review, which was the retail version, and we're like, oh, this is fun, you know, we really like the game. But then I'm like, I'm sitting there just looking at Roxley's website going, oh, I want the deluxe, and finally they had a sale, they had some kind of special where the shipping was free and something else from, I'm like, done.
Yep.
And got it so quick, because it was really a no-brainer, because the gameplay's there. The gameplay's solid and it's fun, and it's a smaller edition you can take to, you know, a convention real quick or something, or just pick up somewhere. But like Ferris Bueller said, it is so choice. It is
Yeah.
definitely something you want in your collection. And I'd say if we gave it a 4.5 out of 5, so I guess that would be a 9 out of 10 in a
There you
top 10
go.
scale, and we just knocked off basically a point for the retail version, because the sweet version is sweet.
Cool. Yeah, I have it as a 9 as well. So 9's all around today for Skyrise. As I said earlier, it feels like a classic game already. If it had a weirder scoring mechanism, it wouldn't surprise me if it was designed by Knizia, right? Like, it feels like one of those like clever, super simple tile laying this buildings, but like it feels similar to that sort of game where you're like laying tiles in super interesting, smart ways, where you're constantly saying like, "Ooh, nice move," like, you know, either to yourself like, "Oh, that felt great," you know, or somebody else sees what you did and you're like, "Oh, I see what you did there, nice, damn it, now I have to, you know, this decision to make." So it does.
There's definitely a lot of appreciation of what other people are doing while you're playing. I agree.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's just like
and because you're always in it, everybody's in it the whole time. You're not waiting for other people to take turns. You're in it every round, and you're bidding every round. And then it's like, once it's done, it's like, oh, I want to know, or oh, you snake that from me, or oh, you know, there's always an instant reaction. You're everybody's playing at the same time. There's no downtime on it. So.
And even if you've passed and it's going back and forth between other players, you're like, don't go to that spot, don't take that spot, don't take that spot. Damn it, why did you take that spot? So you know, it does you're in it no matter what, even if you're not actually bidding. So yeah, I have this as a 9. I feel like it's an instant classic that's going to be, you know, still hitting tables in 10, 15, maybe longer than that, in the way that like Tigris and Euphrates or those types of like tile laying, strategic, tactical, like map laying sort of games. So yeah, 9's all around for a Skyrise.
Yeah, tell your friends, because in all honesty, whenever I go to conventions or whatever and I bring it and talk about it, it's like a lot of people kind of miss the hype on it, or miss the game, because there's, you know, there's so many coming out every freaking day these days. But that's one that's a classic. It's a classic, and in either form, it's a classic. It's a fun game.
Yeah, agreed.